Hi everybody, welcome to module number 4. This is going to be all about managing remote workers. And again, this is going to be a bit of a crash course. This is somewhat of an emergency work from home contingency video course. But if you want to get into this in a lot more detail, we're going to have a lot more content all around this YouTube channel that you'll be able to get access to. We're going to be focusing on a few critical things that I think you need to be able to do this week in order to actually deploy remote work policies and make sure that you're not just deploying remote work and then not really knowing what the heck is going on the other end. How are we making sure that there's very clear KPIs that are deployed, that people know what they're doing, know what their expectations are, and those expectations are being reviewed on a regular basis. So biggest thing, and that's why we talked about communication and process documentation before, is we want to be able to make sure that with those two components, you can build in KPIs, key performance indicators, meaning how many sales calls did you do per day? How many tickets did you answer in your support queue? How many phone calls did you have on your customer service line? These are things that we all need to know in order to build a successful business. And I know that probably a lot of you are measuring that to some degree inside of your brick and mortar, or what we like to call on-premise companies. However, inside of most on-premise companies, in comparison to remote-first companies, which is the type of companies that we are, 100 employees, 35-ish different countries all over the world. I don't actually know the real count. I should probably figure that out because we're always adding more people. You need to be able to get really clear understanding of what's going on. And we find brick and mortar companies aren't as precise as virtual companies, remote companies, because the remote companies require that information. It's absolutely critical. Whereas in brick and mortar companies, you can kind of just walk over and say, hey, Jim, how many calls did you make today? And then you would know in your mind, but that doesn't actually allow you to communicate that with other team members inside of the company, because there's no documentation, there's no project management system, there's very little stuff that's digitized and written down. So, biggest thing that you need to be able to do this week in order to deploy these remote work policies is, we used Zoom and or Skype before. Now we're going to actually put this into action. So with every team member inside of the company, we usually have 2 separate meetings. We have a weekly sync meeting, and then we have a one-on-one meeting. So if you're a manager, you usually want to have 2 of those meetings with every single employee inside of the company. The weekly sync meeting is usually where we do just that. We sync up. So that's where we report all of our core KPIs. So what we're doing inside of the business, what we're personally responsible for, whether we've hit that target or not. We usually have a great, good, and not good. So usually the not goods are the ones that I spend extra time working on our one-on-ones. And if someone's doing absolutely amazing every single week, maybe you don't necessarily need to do a one-on-one with them, but generally you should be doing a one-on-one at least every month, realistically, even with your top performers. But if someone is in the good to not good category, then you probably want to be able to do a meeting with them every single week. So the second meeting is the one-on-ones. That's where you're going to very clearly break down where you're currently at in terms of achieving your weekly goal, your weekly sync. Where do you want to be? And then what do you think is holding you back from being able to achieve those particular targets? That's literally it. It's relatively simple, actually, to be able to do that. We're actually going to have a video where I go through my weekly sync document with everyone inside of the company. I'm just literally going to do a recording so that you guys can see exactly what we are doing. But outside of that, I mean, if you don't have something like that done, this is going to be so powerful inside of your business, because even if you go back to a policy of being inside of an office, deploying these weekly syncs and these one-on-one meetings and documenting it properly will be so beneficial to your overall business. So we're gonna go through that. Also, you need to be able to clearly measure KPIs inside of a remote business in comparison to an on-premise business. So I'll take the example of what we're currently doing. We make sure that we're reporting this data every single week. It's not every 2 weeks, it's not every month, it's not every quarter, it's every single week. So you can start to see that trajectory and you can start to see where the curve goes up or goes down. Usually you want everything up and to the right, unless it's something like the amount of customers that are leaving. Then you want that obviously to go down and to the right. But you need to be able to clearly define those KPIs, and you need to sit down with the employee that you're working with and just say, hey, what's going on? How can you clearly identify what your definition of success is, and can you do better than you did last quarter, as an example. We set quarterly targets, but we measure it weekly, because you really can't project past your quarter fundamentally, and we find that that's a really good way to be able to do the weekly sync. Again, it's gonna be down below where you're gonna specifically see everything that's broken down. Also, we're gonna be talking about Fellow. So Fellow is another tool that we use, and we're gonna be going through a video specifically setting up Fellow and how to deploy Fellow for a work from home agreement. What the tool basically does is it allows you to be able to provide all of those critical metrics that are reported in, and then you can see exactly what's happening in a weekly sync. And then you can also see what's happening in on one-on-one, and then management can be able to get access to this document. Kind of think of it as like a virtual meeting document, and it's pretty powerful. The guys from Fellow were very happy to be able to join with us on this particular project and go through this tutorial on how to set it up and how to be able to set up weekly syncs and one-on-ones. So watch that video next. Your homework is to be able to set up KPIs inside of your business. If you've already got them set up, then that's great. You don't have to do much else, which means every single employee must have a number that they are answerable towards and they can report on every single week. That's specifically what a KPI means. And then secondly, I want you to run your first weekly sync. And if you're confused on exactly how to do that, we have a video tutorial that's going to show you everything that we do inside of one of our weekly syncs. If you have any questions about how to be able to do that, please ask them down in the things down below, the comments down below. I will answer them for you as quickly as humanly possible. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.